Question's been asked over these last days. What's the difference between a charm, an amulet, and a talisman? And that seems to initiate somewhat of an occult inquiry. But if we dive deeper, perhaps we can find out the reason for embarking on this inquiry. So, putting two simple old stories together, let's see what they bring up for us in relationship to our endeavor to reach the depths of what it is that lies behind the questing to answer this question. The first is that story about the seeker after truth, who had undertaken a great number of practices and disciplines and had advanced a certain way along the spiritual path, and this had not gone unnoticed by the gods, who looked down and decided that they would send him a boon in the form of an angelic helper. Now, because this angel could not come down into gross matter, it took the form of a dove. And so, this seeker, called Zaki, began to notice that when anything good happened to him, when any boon arrived, a dove would be present. So pretty soon, Zaki began to revere doves. He collected doves, he got ceramic doves, he had live doves, he had doves imprinted on his robes. And he even would beseech the dove, asking it for boons. And this went on and on and on, until the gods realized that this was no longer a benefit and a boon for Zaki. So they removed the angelic helper. This is not the end of this story. But then there's that second story about a dervish. Now, a dervish is also known to be a seeker. And there was this dervish who also had advanced along the dervish path in the quest for truth. And one day he woke up to find that there beside him was a little black bag. So he put this little bag over his shoulders and continued on his wandering path. Now there are those that revere those seekers after truth, and there are those who are very derisive of those who wear the patchwork robes. But this particular dervish began to realize that when he met someone who scolded him or looked down on him, speaking unkind words about these seekers, that the words themselves disappeared into his black bag. So after some time, he began to experiment. Now, he could find that those who were particularly unkind to him, he could open his black bag, and not only the words that were given to him, but the whole being would disappear into his black bag. So he began to have a thought, and he began to enjoy this. So he began to get into debate with priests and monks and others of the religious kind, and whenever they came up against him and said, yours is not the right way, this is the only way, he would pop them into his little black bag and they would disappear. So this was just getting more and more. So he began to have the sense that he had a calling. So he, on his wandering path, he began to eliminate what he considered to be evildoers in the world. So whenever he met someone he considered to be an evildoer, he just popped them in his little black bag. And this went on. But of course, when there was a depletion of evildoers on the earth, there were many demons who really had no means of manifesting, so they began to fly around, causing mischief in other ways. So the dervish decided that he was going to do away with the demons too. So every demon he met, he popped into his black bag. But you know, demons are very hard to kill. And so they kept expanding his bag all the time and seeming to pop out. So he had to do something about this. So he took his bag to a silversmith who had a forge, and the dervish asked him, please, would he hammer the bag back to its normal size. So the dervish offered him several pieces of silver to undertake this task, but no matter what the silversmith did with his hammer, the demons didn't disappear at all. So after some time, the silversmith said, well, I'm sorry, I can't flatten your bag at all. Here's a rebate of the money that you've given me. And the dervish opened the bag and all the demons flew out and went down to the safe haven of hell. Well, time passed and the dervish continued doing what he considered to be his calling. And of course that time came for him to leave these earthly realms. But instead of finding himself at the gates of heaven, he found himself at the gates of hell. There were all these demons who he'd beaten so badly, ready to welcome him in. And he said, well, what am I doing here? I have done good works and tried to eliminate all of evil in life. And the demon said, oh, well, this is precisely why you belong here, because you concentrated on evil and nothing else in the world. And the dervish said, no, this won't do. So he opened his black bag and he popped the entire hell into his bag. So of course there was nowhere else for him to go except up to those celestial realms. So he went up to the pearly gates and he was standing there, and the angel outside the gate said, well, what makes you think that you deserve to be in heaven? And by this time the dervish just said, well, look, I've eliminated everything else. Hell no longer exists, and if you don't open this gate and let me in, I'll just open my bag and pop you in. So, if we look at this question, what's the difference between a charm, an amulet, and a talisman? And now we look at these two simple stories, which seem to bring us into the realm of psychology, you might say. What's the similarity between these two stories for you? Okay. Good answer. So what has this got to do with answering our question? Diving into the depths of this question, not endeavoring to analyze what a charm, an amulet, and a talisman is in an occult sense, but looking at it in a sublime sense. What is the sublime significance of a charm, an amulet, and a talisman for you? Knowing that in that occult sense, even in the realm of superstition, that they have significance for anyone who wears them.
They're kind of assistants on the road to truth.
Right.
And once their use is recognised, it becomes interior.
Exactly. But we can so easily get caught in believing that the power is in the charm or the amulet or the talisman, isn't it? It's very easy for us, as in the first story, to get caught in thinking that the power is in the dove. Or the black bag. But we're still left to answer this question. What is the difference between a charm, an amulet, and a talisman?
Charm makes you charming, and talisman makes you charming.
Okay. And an amulet? Oh, what?
It makes you virtuous, perhaps.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Where could this possibly be leading, do you wonder?
Somehow depends what we learn about it or what we want to believe in. It's all about mind. Somehow the stories is all about how we perceive things, how we want to perceive them, or how we want to use the powers really. Somewhere there's still that the power of mind kind of thing.
Absolutely. That's where we're going. Thank you.